Hey, what's up you guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. So if you end up liking this video or you just want to support me, head down below and hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. So you might be asking, what is the watch list? So I'll give you the long and short of it. About a year ago, I didn't know what to watch. Between Hulu and Netflix and all these other streaming services, I just had too many options. So instead what I did is I started asking friends for recommendations, and every time they gave me one, I would add it to an alphabetized list on my phone. But as more and more friends started recommending me shows, the list got a little crazy. Some friends would recommend me animes that they loved, or sitcoms or cartoons from their childhood, but a lot of my friends recommended me shows seemingly just to screw with me. And so before I knew it, I had a list of almost 1,000 shows, which again was way too many to choose from. So what I'm doing now is I use a random number generator to pick a number between 1 and 1,000. Then, whatever show that corresponds to on my list, I watch the entire thing. Whether it's a one-season show on Netflix that got canceled after 6 episodes, or it's some soap opera that went on for 20 years. And so I decided that while I'm taking this trip through television history, every time I finish a show, I'll bring it right here to YouTube so that I can rank and review it for you guys until we wind up with the definitive tier list of any and every show. That way we can finally get answers to the most important questions, like what's better, Pokemon or Breaking Bad? CSI or Days of Our Lives? I'm sure everyone's been wondering. And my first randomly selected show was a little anime called Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter is the story of a determined 12-year-old boy as he sets out to become a professional adventurer, which in this world is called a hunter. He wants to do this so that he can track down his absentee father, Jing, who abandoned him as a baby with his aunt Mito. Now, seeing as how Hunter x Hunter was written by Yoshihiro Togashi, who also wrote Yu Yu Hakusho and who is married to the author or mangaka of Sailor Moon, it should come as no surprise that Hunter x Hunter is a very solid show. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I should mention that there's actually 2 versions of Hunter x Hunter. One from 1999 and one from 2011. I watched the 2011 version because, well, first of all, that was the version that was specifically recommended to me. And also, because if I had watched the 1999 version, I would have missed out on more than half the show. Which would be a real bummer because a lot of the best character moments in this show happen right at the end. And the character work in this show is really its strongest asset. Like, let's look at Gon's best friends, for example. Killua is this young assassin who just wants to not have to kill people anymore. And he starts the show as this atypical Sasuke archetype character who really sucks, but he goes on such an amazing character arc over the course of the show that by the end, he's one of, if not the best characters in it. Then there's Kurapika, who is on this revenge mission to find the people who killed his entire clan. And at one point, he actually takes over as protagonist of the show. And by the end of the period that he's the protagonist for, I really wish that he had gotten like a spin-off series because his story has just become so interesting. And then there's Liario, who is probably the weakest of the 3 on account of he's barely in the show, but whenever he shows up, he's just so much fun. And this attention given to the characters isn't like sequestered to the protagonists, but it's given to the villains too. Hisoka is a creep and a murderer, but you get a real sense of what his goals are, and at a certain point you almost start to wonder if he even really is a villain, or if he's like an anti-hero. Or the Phantom Troop, who is this group of thieves that are such a colorful cast that we actually spend a good amount of time just watching them kind of hang out and drink and play card games with each other. And you get attached to them. Like, you never stop thinking that they're evil, but you get to understand who they are as people. And maybe the best example of the character work in this show is one that I can't really talk about because I'm trying so hard to not go into spoilers. But just trust me when I say that Meruem is one of the best written villains that I think I've ever seen in an anime. Hell, even a lot of the side characters are amazing. Like Melody, Knuckles, Shoot, Biscuit. Like, the list of fantastic characters in this show just goes on and on and on. But you might have noticed that I haven't talked about Gon yet. And the reason for that is because Gon kind of sucks. Gon is probably the most boring character in the entire show. And Togashi knows this. Like, he's gone on record saying that he intentionally made Gon boring so that all the characters around him would pop. And they really do. So I guess it was successful. But at the end of the day, what that means is that your main character is just sort of a box standard, plucky, determined, generic shonen character, and that's really disappointing. He doesn't grow and change in the way that Killua does. He doesn't have an interesting reason for doing what he's doing like Kurapika does. He doesn't get the deep character moments that Hisoka or Meruem get. He's just kind of there. The only growth that he does is physically. He has to get more powerful so that he can continue to be a shonen character and fight the enemies as they come to him. But even the powers that he gets are probably some of the most boring ones in the show, and it's just such a bummer. What's even more disappointing is that this sort of bland, standard anime feel that you get from Gon as a character is true of about half the story arcs as well. The Hunter's Exam arc drags on. It just feels so long, and there's parts in it that are really good. I particularly like the battle royal bit, and I do think it's interesting how they handled the tournament bit at the end. But if you've seen another shonen style anime, you've seen this arc before, and that's true even more so of the Heaven's Arena arc, where it's just kind of an excuse for Gon and Killua to train. They don't really have any particularly interesting fights except one right at the end, and the majority of it is just kind of training. It's just wheel spinning. And then, maybe more disappointing than even those, is the Greed Island arc, which comes between two fantastic arcs, but feels so out of place between them that it kind of comes across as filler. But those bland, boring story arcs serve a purpose, right? The Hunter's Exam arc and the Heaven's Arena arc serve to provide you with an understanding of how this world works. You learn about what the hunters are. You learn about how the magic system works. You learn about these different factions like the Phantom Troop, so that by the time you get to the York New City arc, all of these pieces can just come together in interesting ways without having to spend too much time explaining to you how it's working. And then, if that's true of the York New arc, which in my opinion is probably the best arc in the anime, then it's doubly true of the Chimera Ants arc, where they take all the pieces that have been established in these worse arcs and they dial them up to like 11 or 12 and just see what the natural conclusion of all of these systems at absolute peak performance are. And it's really cool. There's a little bit of an over-reliance on narration, and the pacing is not great in Chimera Ants, but those two arcs, York New City and the Chimera Ant arc, really elevate this show to a whole new level. So I guess my final thoughts on Hunter x Hunter are that while it never falls below that line of average to good, like it's never bad, it only reaches to excellence a handful of times. But when you pair that with this fantastic character work and so many characters that I've grown very fond of, I have absolutely no problems putting it in the number one position of my rankings so far. But what did you guys think of Hunter x Hunter? Am I completely off base here? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Or if you have recommendations of shows you'd like to see me add to the list, do the same thing. And I hope to see you back here next time when I rank and review this.